What's up, everybody? Good evening.
How's it going?
Welcome, Bryan. Thanks for coming on tonight,
Thank
man.
you.
I'm super excited for this because I've been such a big fan of your work for so many years. And I've been banging the table about you to everybody I know. John knows about you. Rogerio couldn't make it tonight, but he knows about you. So this is awesome. So I appreciate you coming on and
Well,
doing this.
thank you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Super excited to have you on. I've always said like I've never seen anybody's artwork that looks like yours. So I'm really curious and interested to find out like a little bit more about you and your background and how you got into like doing all this defacing of currency and stuff like that. So I guess we'll
Me
start
too.
it off. Yeah, right. So take us back to the early days. I don't know, like tell us a little bit about your background and how you got going and doing all this. Pretty cool, man.
You'll have to forgive me. These ear pods keep falling out of my ears.
I got a big head too. It's real awkward and stupid for most of us. So I'm with you. No worries. Yeah.
Early on, I guess, really it was just kind of a fluke, to be honest with you. I was sketching one night, watching football, and decided that I wanted to put a face on a dollar bill or just wanted to draw on it for some reason, and I really don't know why. And I ended up, I think I did that one, then did one more because it felt good to deface money. And then I posted it on Instagram, and originally Instagram was just a place for me to put some artwork and sketches and stuff like that. And it was really just kind of like a sort of a quick portfolio kind of thing, but really casual kind of thing that I could just show people. And so I posted the second one up on there, and some guy from, I think he's from, I'm going to say Western Europe. That'll be better.
Sure.
He ended up asking if I was selling it, and I said, yeah, sure. And I think I sold the first one. It really was the first thing that I sold, and it was just kind of, I don't want to say thrown together, but it was like the best I could do at the time. And he bought it for like $20. It was like a $5 bill or something. And from then on, I just kind of threw a few things together. No real game plan or anything like that. And eventually it just became something that I started doing, posting some of these single bills up, and didn't really have them presented well or matted or anything like that. And then I had a guy who owns Sterling Gear, makes rings and stuff.
Yeah.
Who asked me, he said he had seen my stuff and wanted to do something unusual. And I said, well, let me see if I can get a sheet of money. And I had no idea whether I could or couldn't. And luckily I found out that I could. And I did this big piece for him. And from then on, it was on. I was like, man, if I can make that doing this work, and I enjoy doing it. And so from there, it just kind of went on, and I think got a little better and better, more refined over the years, and kind of found my niche. But that was really kind of the origin story, I guess.
Yeah.
That's good. Good timing to get this sheet up here too. That looks pretty wild there. I didn't know you could do that either. I didn't know you could actually get a sheet of money. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the one that I did for him was a full sheet of 32 $1 bills.
Wow.
And I had this big skeleton in a factory kind of theme, because he was a working guy and worked with his hands and everything. So it was like this industrial revolution looking working man kind of thing, but it was all skeletons and skulls and stuff like that. But it was fun.
Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Were you always doing type of illustration, or what's your background just with like design and stuff like that? Were you doing that professionally before the money, or just a hobbyist, or what's your background?
Really, I mean, I'm kind of, I guess I could say, trained. I went to art school and went to quite a few of them. just because I couldn't really put my finger on what I wanted to do. But I'm pretty much like classically trained in painting and oil paints and things like that. What I do here is it's mostly like liquid acrylic. So it's a whole different feel to it than I'm used to, like being able to layer and do stuff like that. So there's been a learning curve for me using this kind of paint, but it's worked out good. It's holds up and everything. So I've kind of gravitated towards that, but did a little bit of computer graphics. And over the years, just sort of as people would ask me about my artwork, they'd say, can you design this or design that for me? Usually t-shirts or logos and stuff. So I was like, sure. And then I'd figure it out. Lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
Oh, it happens to me at least twice a show. So you're good.
John move right there. I think one of the things that I see people that I think you always comment on, Bryan, and people ask, is the money real? Right? They're always like, "Hey, is that real money?" Right? So
yeah,
I see you responding to that.
Hang on one second.
Sure.
Can you see if Emmy has any headphones? These keep falling out of my head. Yeah. Thanks. Sorry.
No worries.
I'm going to try and get some headphones here. Say that again. I'm very sorry.
No, that's okay. You see online, a lot of times, like people ask you, like they think the money might be fake, or it's not real dollars or $10 bills or anything like that. Yeah, but they're real. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all 100% real, and actually, you can take the money and take it to the bank, even with all the paint on it, and get the $10 back. They'll just chalk it up as destroyed money, but you can get your money back for it, but not like what you paid for it from me.
Wow. Yeah, right.
It still has a value.
I was wondering if you have intentionally entered any into circulation just for the sake of doing it to see if it comes back around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, tons of it.
Yeah.
I'll usually I'll do like a $10 bill and just do the skull on it, nothing real fancy or anything. And I might use that for a tip or something when I'm out at a restaurant, or just put it in a vending machine, like $1 bills and stuff like that. I've never seen anything come back through, but I've had people get up with me on Instagram that they just found this and so cool, or whatever they say, and they start following along. So it's not like, doesn't get me mass followers, but it's fun just putting it out there and getting one person to appreciate it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and you never know. It would be so cool if just randomly someday you just all of a sudden run into somebody. Like, I don't know if you do any conventions or anything, but just someone comes up to you and is like, "Hey, this is yours."
Yeah, that would be good. I'm actually I'm really interested in doing like a Comic-Con or something like that.
Well, this would be huge. Yeah, if you were sitting there doing this, like, this would. Joel and I went to a con last year in New Hampshire. I guarantee you, this would be popular.
Well, the hard thing is that I guess it's a good problem to have, but most of the time when I do something and I post it, it sells. So I've got very little in the house of actual artwork. I mean, there's a few pieces I've done for me and my wife, and they're hanging up on the walls, but if it sells, I'll sell it.
Even like prints, like, do you do prints of them or anything, or do you just do the actual?
Early on, I did a lot of prints, and I just haven't recently. I think I got a little bit bored with them.
Yeah.
But when I was selling them, I was selling out. So I should get back into doing some.
Like just this one here, for example, like I'd hang that on my wall, even just a poster of it, you know what I mean? Or have it on a t-shirt, like it looks badass. So, but
thanks.
Yeah.
I think it's the best of both worlds for John and I, because our day job is in finance and we have a horror comics thing. So it's like,
oh, no kidding.
The perfect marriage between two right here is money and skulls, man. That's like in our wheelhouse. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I've had a couple like financial people in the market, bankers and people that do fund management and stuff like that have picked up some pieces.
Yeah, it's
I was
super
going to ask you what the biggest dollar you've had to do art for on, if you've had some like big wig come to you with like just a huge.
I'm trying to think. There have been a couple people along the way, but I think for the most part, I've done some pieces and just sent them to people that I like their band or something like that. There's a really good artist that I look up to. He's over in England. His handle is God Machine, and he just does phenomenal line work and all kinds of awesome stuff. Real well known, and I've got some stuff together that I'm sending out to him just because I appreciate what he does, and that's the only way I can say thank you, is send him something of mine. But there've been some bands and things like that that I've done some work for.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the Misfit shirt on. I was going to ask if you're doing any album covers and things like that, because I feel like this would translate really well for a lot of that type
You would
of job.
think, but I haven't had any requests yet.
Well, we're going to change that. So we don't have a lot of clout, so we'll push you out there. We do have some connections. We have a horror author. He's in a band, so maybe we can talk to like Ron Malfi. John could get behind this. I think he would dig it. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's awesome. When you go into a design like this, do you have like do you sketch something out ahead of time, or just kind of dive in and kind of let the art dictate where it's going to go, or what is your process like when you get into there?
A little bit of both. Sometimes I'll sit down if I can come up with like 4 or 5 clean, crisp $10 bills or whatever I want to work on. I'll do the faces on them and knock those out. And then in that, I have no real plan on it. Just kind of whatever happens. If they've got a bottom jaw, then they get one. If not, it's something else. Or if I want to put fangs on them or do something different, I just kind of play that way. And then I'll kind of look at them and come up with some backgrounds to put in there. Sometimes I just sell them off with the faces a little bit cheaper and kind of go that way. Now, if I'm working with I've got a few clients that I do regular work for, and a lot of times they'll kind of give me some guidelines of something that they're looking for or something to match something that they've already bought. I've got one recently that I'm working on now that he bought, and he just wanted, he had contacted me again and said, I'm ready for something. And I know you've only got limited $2 sheets left, so let me grab one of those. And so I just came up with some sketches and sent that to him and try and come up with a good game plan. Then I sketch it out, kind of work some colors in marker or something, and kind of go from there and try and make it look right on the actual money.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Are you taking on mostly commission work at this point, or is it all original stuff and then you just kind of put it out there to see, what somebody thinks about that? What's that look like for you?
Well, I've got a day job where I do computer graphics for a company. And so I've been sort of not doing as much as I did in the beginning, not pushing it as much, but I've got a good regular clientele, and I usually get some new people along the way as I post things that will ask for something. But a lot of what I'm doing is commission work. And even if I put something out there or post, I've got this available, these bills or this sheet available, somebody will usually jump on it, and then we work, a commission from that. I've done a few recently where I've just posted some other, see, I think I've got some stuff here.
Oh,
let's see. I think you might have already shown it. Yeah. Or maybe not. Yeah, you might have.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I might have shown it, but it's cool to see it live in person. So
yeah. So sometimes I'll make stuff up like that and just hang on to it post it at some point and see if somebody wants it. What's funny is sometimes I'll have something out there and I'll hang on to it for a couple months and I'll post it a couple times. And then all of a sudden I post it one more time and I've got like multiple people wanting it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah. You never know with all these algorithms too, if they're showing your posts and stuff. It's kind of a pain in the ass, right? So you catch them on the plug and they're throttling you up. You know, it's like more people see it. We're always complaining about that too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to get a lot more business before Instagram started doing all the commercials and, sponsored ads and things like that. It just seems like even other artists that I follow and that I'm friends with, they just get lost in the mix. I don't see anything from them anymore. Yeah. And then I'll go on and check them out and see what they've been up to. And there's like a ton of artwork that they've done that I haven't seen come up on a feed. So it's kind of messed up, but it still works for me.
Yeah. We're always complaining about that because, the more successful we are as artists, obviously our budget can increase. So we could pay you Facebook, Instagram, right, to show stuff. But if we can't have our stuff shown to market it, we're never going to get money to pay you. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy for those guys.
Facebook, like over the last couple of weeks too, Facebook, I've been getting notifications about other people's posts that I didn't even comment or like, and I'm like, what the hell? Like in my notifications, it's like so-and-so or commented on so-and-so's post. And I'm like, I didn't. Why am I seeing this? Like why is my post getting lost in the shuffle in these like horror book communities when I'm trying to like share my book, it's like just buried. Yeah. So
I even set up something where I've got like on my phone where I of course do all my posting, where I've got in my notes, I've just got like hashtags that I can copy, paste at the bottom, that I try and cover, what's relevant, but put enough out there that maybe somebody will see it, because I just feel like people don't see it anymore. Luckily I've got repeat customers, so that helps a lot.
I know I didn't see you for a while, and I was like, oh, I wonder what Bryan's up to, and I'll go and like look you up because like I dig it. So it's like, oh shit, he's done like 8 other things since the last since I've seen him. So yeah, because it usually sometimes it's always in there.
Yeah, there was a little while ago that I really wasn't doing much, and it was really just sort of like a creative block for almost like 2 years.
That's normal.
I just got tired of doing it, and I couldn't come up with anything. But luckily, it came back.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's totally normal. Like, man, I was oil painting like a freak, and right now, like the comics kind of come around, so it's like, okay, I went back to my illustration world for a bit, and like the painting is like, I'll get a commission here or there. I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll do it, but it's like, I don't know, I just don't have that drive. It takes a lot of time and stuff.
Especially when you have a day job too.
Yeah,
it's hard to come home and get motivated to do something. And when I was I'll say a lot busier doing the artwork. I wasn't working any other job. I was just doing artwork and waking up in the morning and doing the artwork and staying up until like 10 o'clock at night, pulling like 14-hour days and stuff like that, just working on artwork. And it just kind of burnt me out. Plus, security is nice with a job.
It helps. I mean, that's why we have day job too. It's like, God, health insurance. I was self-employed for a while, and like just the health insurance was like $1,800 a month for family.
Oh, I know.
It's wild. Not cheap. So really got to be selling a lot of art at that point to make a go of it, right? You really got to be cranking that out. So
we don't have to be the starving artist. We can just do the art for fun and try to make some money and not worry about it. So
but day job is all for the art, like we talked about that before on the show too. It just facilitates the art, right? It's the day job.
Exactly. I mean, I sit at work sometimes and I'm like, man, I'd rather be sitting home mixing paints right now. But you're right. It facilitates it so that I can go out and buy more paint.
Yeah, and that's me all day with my job. I just want to like turn around and start writing. Like I don't, like that's the dream. It's just writing all day. But but I hear you there. I have to share this story, Joel. So when I hired Bryan Silverbacks to do our cover. So he got the last name. I don't think he didn't catch the last name. So I hired another artist, a comic artist named Bryan, to do a cover for us, and he followed you. So he's a big fan of you. So for a bit, he thought I hired you to do a comic cover, and he's like, "Man, I didn't realize he did that sort of thing." I'm like, "That's all he does. What are you talking about?" So he started sending me these your page, and I'm like, "Man, this is badass," but I didn't know Bryan did this. And then I'm like, wait, we're talking about two different Bryans here. So, but that's how I got introduced to you when he shared the page with me. I'm like, man, this is freaking cool. So
that's cool.
It was really funny. So, but maybe we could get you to do a cover. That could be pretty slick, because I was thinking about that.
That would actually be awesome.
It's pretty cool looking. And, I think it'd be a different angle to see that. How difficult is it for you to get the uncut sheets like that now from the Treasury and stuff? Are those hard to come by? Are they still pretty regularly available?
It is right now.
Yeah,
I used to be able to get them any day of the week, order as many as I wanted. And now with COVID, the Treasury Department has closed down its entire, I guess, gift or specialty branch that sells unique money and things like that. And that's where I would get all this stuff from. And it's basically just, there's pictures of everything, but it's shut down. So I've been, and I could get a decent price through them. It's inflated, but now I've got to go on eBay and look for collectors that have half sheets or quarter sheets. And, anybody that's got full sheets, it's like they're asking $500 for a full sheet.
Jeez.
And, they're not worth a quarter of that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's been tough coming up with like the full sheet stuff. And I've got a list of people that are like, when they're available, let me know. I'm ready to go, and haven't been able to do that for 2 years.
You might be able to get some Russian rupee sheets pretty cheap.
That could be a hot sale.
That go right there, man. Like this, some Putin skulls might be hot right now. So
yeah, really. I was asking an investor friend of mine. I was like, "Come on, man, you've got to be able to get us into just buying a bunch of cash right now.
Yeah,
we'll just save it up and turn it back in later."
There you go. Yeah. Do you find working with the U.S. currency, is there a paper quality that changes from like different years? Like if you get like an old bill to a new bill, does it like suck up the material more, or is it kind of consistent? What's that like? I've never painted or drawn money, so I didn't know.
I never really thought about it, but no, it stays consistent. I think their paper that they've used, their secret formula, has been the same forever. The only difference now is that you get they do some of the hot stamping on it. Like a $10 bill has a little like metallic 10 at the bottom right corner. The hundreds have the ribbon strip in them now, and you can't really paint over those very well. Like I've got to coat, if I really need to cover it, I've really got to coat it almost with like kills with house painting to be able to put some paint over top of it. But most of the time I just leave it and let it be there.
You probably spent more time looking at currency than anybody else out in the world. Do you ever see that secret Illuminati code or something that people say is like hidden in there? Have you ever seen any like cryptic things like, hey, wait a minute, what the hell is that there?
I've seen a few that people will talk about on the internet, and I can look through and find them. There's a little owl at the top and stuff like that. But it is always fascinating to me, the artwork on it. And I don't know if maybe that draws me to it a little bit, but I've always been really big into engraving. Like as a kid, I used to look at like old books that had the real engravings with the tissue paper over top of them, and just looking at the fine line work and things like that. And then when you look at a dollar bill, there's so much incredible detail in it that sometimes I'll stop and just stare at it for a while. And I love detail.
Yeah, and it's all it's etching, right? Like the plates and things. Is it more of like it's more of a print carving almost, right? When they make that, right?
Yeah, they from what I understand, they have plates, or they make up one, of course, a master, and they'll engrave all that in metal, and then they make printing plates off of that, and they'll be, like 32 or whatever on there, 32 to 50 on a full sheet, and they just run those off of that master that they make copies onto the plates, and they just run it off that way.
Yeah, I worked at a museum a few years ago. We had a St. Gaudens exhibition, so I got to see like the original gold eagle coin, like the $20, and seeing some of that process with some of his original stuff. And it's incredible that they're able to get. I mean, they start out much larger and they shrink the coin down, but it's incredible just to see how much detail, even in an engraving like that. It's just absolutely amazing. So
it's amazing, and even some of the foreign currency, I like it, but it just doesn't seem to have the same impact. And maybe it's just because I've seen it all my life as the US dollar, but to have that many different denominations and all those different designs, and you'll see kind of a repetition through some of the foreign currency with their designs where they just kind of copy it over and change a face or something like that. But
yeah, I noticed like a lot of blank space too on some of like the US bills are just so detailed. What you were saying, right? I mean, there's just so much detail. If you actually, my son was even looking at like a dollar bill and just like, what's that? I'm like, man, I never even noticed that before. That's wild.
Right.
Right. So
yeah, even the blank space in there, they fill it with some of the watermark stuff in there, and so it's like they're still thinking about all the negative space in there. They're still filling it up.
Yeah.
Do you ever do any like the older currency? I've actually sold you some old cabinet cards and things back in the day, so I know you've done some.
I remember.
Yeah, man. That's going way back. So I don't know if you've got into like grabbing any like collectible antiquity, American currency like that, kind of tooling with that a bit, or if it's just kind of more modern stuff.
The modern stuff sells. I've done a lot of foreign currency, and that just doesn't seem to go as well. I mean, the Saddam Hussein dollar bills, they go. A lot of veterans like to pick those up. But the older currency, I follow a few people that collect old currency, Civil War currency, and even older type stuff. And I always want to think about doing something on something like that, but they're definitely more expensive, and the amount of detail that they put into them, it's real small faces, small details, so I can't really add a lot to it without it just looking like jumbled up ink or paint. So I've kind of steered clear of that.
Yeah, gotcha. It's a good point, because over the time the president's head has gotten bigger, hasn't it? Don't even think about that. Do you remember, Johnny? Remember the old money where he was like in the oval?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Occasionally you get those. You're like, man, this thing's ancient. Like this is some Stone Age currency. I mean, it's crazy. It wasn't that long ago, but you catch one in your change sometimes. You're like, holy crap, what the hell is that?
Well, I remember the first time I got one of the newer bills with the bigger heads, and like I was like, whoa, it looked fake almost, because it was just so different,
Right.
But,
yeah, I thought they were fake too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. What's some projects that you haven't done yet that you would like to do with this medium, that maybe it's on your agenda that you're thinking about doing?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm always kind of rolling ideas around, like laying in bed, I'll sit there and think for a while on stuff that I want to do, or I don't have anything particular that, like a certain project that I want to do. But I've been playing a lot more with Procreate and the iPad, doing digital stuff, and I've been working towards doing some like one-off drawings on that to turn into prints. So I'm kind of still learning it a little bit, but it's a lot of fun, and I'm anxious to get something out that would be worthy of multiple prints of, that people would actually buy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This one's cool. I like the.
I love this one.
Yeah, right.
That's one of my favorites too.
Book cover all day long, John. Right there.
I thought I was going to get a lot of hate mail over that.
It's the what's the Leonardo, right? It's a homage to that, right?
Yeah, he was. There's one of that, and then there's another one where he's just got the. I forget what it's called. It's a Buddha reference where it's just a clear crystal ball, but it's got the Orion stars in it that just look like reflections, and he's kind of pointing up. That's kind of similar to that one.
Yeah,
that I've always wanted to play with.
Is that in there? Is that on the Instagram? Or no, not yet.
No, I don't have it.
Sorry, I was just scrolling.
No,
there you go.
No, but that's what that reminds me of. Is that same style?
Yeah.
This one's way different than the others. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a special request.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's very neat. Love
I've
that.
I pulled a few things.
Sure.
Yeah, I can stop sharing so we can see that.
I was just gonna, we were talking about process, and see if I've got everything here. There was a guy I'm working with now he's the one that contacted me and wanted to kind of put something with some of the other stuff that he had bought. And he had, I'm not sure if he bought that one that we were just talking about or not, but we were doing something along the religious lines, and we were just kind of hashing it out through Instagram on messaging. And what I normally do, I'll sketch something out. I don't think I have one of the original sketches, but then I'll just kind of see if I can get the glare off of it. Like a marker concept. Let me turn this up. That might.
Yeah, we can see it.
So I'll sketch something up like that to get the scale down. I'll usually go back and do get a piece of paper here.
Everything's backwards on here too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
so I'll do like a pencil sketch to figure out like darks and lights and where I really want to put some detail and things like that. And then I'll go back a lot of times and do a secondary mock-up with some different ideas and things like that. And then I usually end up with, I don't know if you can see in the background right here, is the actual line drawing of it that I use to transfer my drawing onto the sheet of bills. And then right now I'm probably like a quarter of the way through this, but this is the kind of paint up of it. I can't get it right.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, I can see it pretty good. There you go. Yeah. Again, it's like you gotta go with the opposite. Yeah. No, that's awesome.
So
that looks really good.
I'm still getting detail and stuff like that in it, and working out what's going to be in the background and things like that. But that's kind of the process of working, and then I'll just work this painting until I'm blue in the face and my wife tells me to stop.
Yeah, that's always the question, right? When you're a painter, is how do you know when to stop? And I always say when I feel like I'm diddling with it, like I'm just like, okay, stop tweaking it. Who cares at this point? Your job done, right? Just walk away.
Right.
Yeah,
I remember when I used to reach out to you about my drawings. I'd be like, I feel like I got to tweak this, tweak that, and you're like, no, it's done when it's done. It's just like
walk away.
Yeah. If someone wanted a photo, they'd buy a photo. That's basically what you say.
Exactly.
I was going to ask you. Obviously, you got a lot of ink on you there. Has anyone ever come to you about doing tattoo art?
Yeah, I've had a few people that I've done. There's a lot of them that I just kind of steer clear of because I don't want my name referenced with their ideas, and not to sound like a snob or something, but
I know
get some crazy ideas that people come up with. But I'll do that once in a while.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I did a short stint myself at a tattoo parlor, just doing.
No kidding.
Yeah, I didn't sling any ink, unfortunately. I wish I had, but it was a cool gig. Right after high school, I was doing that, and answering the phone and cleaning the toilets and drawing flash and custom pieces for them and stuff. I did piercing, which was kind of cool. But some days you make $40, some days you make $1,400 if it's busy.
Right.
It's really like we talked about. It's hard to have a consistent living doing that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
you got to have a regular clientele, just like a barber.
yeah,
You got to have your regular people coming in all the time, and people that come back, repeat customers are key in there.
yeah. That was it was fun, but yeah, you can't like have a family or do anything with that kind of
No,
role stuff unless you're in a really busy shop. And there, I don't think that at that time in New Hampshire, it really wasn't. We're in New Hampshire, so it really wasn't a thing like that yet. That whole subculture was a little bit hot, but it became larger. I think 10, 15 years later,
right.
the tattoo scene really blew up much larger than it is. And there was a shop on every corner here. I think the law changed in the state to primarily help with that too. So that was a
Yeah, I
big,
I see
remember.
one all over the place now. But
Yeah, I remember. I lived in Boston for a while, and you
oh,
couldn't
that's
get
it.
a tattoo there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. So we're like an hour from Boston North, so we're not,
Hmm.
yeah, I remember that too. Actually, the guy that I work with, his name is Eric Lynch. He does some incredible stuff. I got some work by him. He left New Hampshire as soon as the Boston law changed and opened a shop down there. So I think
Yeah.
it's Redemption Tattoo is his shop down there. And that
Um,
honestly, if somebody asked me, like, hey man, like who would you recommend here to get a tattoo? Like I probably wouldn't say anybody in New Hampshire. I'd probably send him to Eric because his
yeah,
color still holds up. I got a piece 25 years ago and it's still hanging in there. So yeah.
yeah. I try and find who I like their artwork and just let them do their thing. I think there's only one that I've got that I kind of designed, but for the most part, I've got a guy in New York that I really like a lot. His name's Sean Van Oven, really good artist, and I'll travel to him when I get the itch. Haven't been in a while, just because of
Yeah.
COVID and
yeah,
everything's tight right now. But
Yep.
yeah, I like having somebody like that you can just call up and let them do what they want.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Well,
they appreciate that too. So that's another whole thing in the tattoo world. So that's how I ended up with a lot of my work. Is Eric was doing just tribal all week. He's like, oh god, another freaking tribal piece. And I was like, what do
Right.
you want to do, man? He's like, let's do some robots or some space shit. I'm like, yeah, let's do it up. He's like, hop in the chair. So I was like, okay. So
Yeah.
I got a Voltron piece on my right calf. So that's probably
I don't even think I knew that.
yeah, man. Yeah, they got a Voltron down. Yeah, you don't see me in shorts too much while we were in the
That's
office.
true.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's only environment. Yeah, but yeah, I do. Yeah, it's cool. Yep. What's your you had the Misfit shirt on. You mentioned some bands and stuff. What's your background with music and stuff? Were you in a band or a musician at all, or nothing?
No, actually, I was kind of talking about it with my wife tonight. Um, I think I've always liked music. I've always loved pretty much everything. Like, there's something great about everything out there. Um, but I had a girlfriend quite a while ago who had a band. She was in a band with some friends, and I was pretty much friends with everybody else in there. But I would go and watch them practice, and it wasn't until that point that I started like actually watching and being able to ask questions and have more of an appreciation for the individual instruments and what each person did that I really got into listening to it more. And now, I mean, I'll listen to everything from, old country, Dwight Yoakam, even to, Misfits, and hell, my wife turned me on to Slayer not too long ago. So,
Nice.
it's like,
Good lady.
there's
Sounds
great
like
in
it's
all of it.
fine. So
Yeah.
No, I feel like the older you get, the more open you get to stuff too. Like I never thought I'd listen to some of the stuff I listen to now, but I'm pretty wide open. But actually tomorrow I'm going to my first concert in years, definitely since the pandemic. But I'm going to see Chevelle and Korn tomorrow night, so I'm pretty excited. Brings back some memories. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge Chevelle fan. Korn is like, I don't mind Korn. I like some of their big hits, but I'm just more excited to see Chevelle, and they're actually not even the headline. So
Oh, that's good.
it's gonna be a good time. So
what ended up bringing you up to Boston? Was that for work or family? How'd you end up this way?
I had met somebody at the time and moved up there, had a job offer, and kind of moved up there. And that was ended up being my first wife, and stayed up there for about, I don't know, I guess it was about 5 years or so. And then just moved back down to North Carolina. That's where she was from. And, you know, everything happened at the end of that. And I just kind of stayed down here. I enjoyed it. My parents had moved down here. And then my wife now lived in Baltimore, and I was still, at the time, I have family in Maryland, is where I'm originally from. So I'd still go up there, but we knew each other. We actually went to high school together and stayed in contact, just friendly through Facebook and stuff. And then she got divorced, I got divorced, and we just kept talking. And then one day we were like, are we dating? And we were still like multiple states apart, and been a great story ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, if she turned you on the Slayer, I think you did okay. So that's a good one.
Yeah, she's a Slayer woman.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I spent some time up in Towson. I was there in Maryland. So, in that area, there was another metal band that we were following. It's called Nothing Face. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but they were from Baltimore, Maryland area.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, they were great. So that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about, you know, do you always see yourself kind of, I guess my question would be is a couple things. Do you always see yourself continuing to work with currency, or do you find a desire maybe ultimately to start defacing other things out there that are kind of iconic like that? Where do you think you see that going longer term?
You know, the whole doing things on currency, it's just kind of like my gig, I guess.
Yeah, it really is. Agree.
But I like it, but I also like just doing small paintings and things like that, that just ideas that I've got in my head for something, or, you know, just doing, I used to do really big paintings, but now I really like the small details and things like that. So I tend to work a little smaller, you know, within like 24 by 12 kind of tall paintings and things like that. I could see myself getting back into painting. And I think I actually mentioned this the other night that, like, I'm old now, but when I get older and have more time, I'd really like to get back into oil painting and having the time to get into all the whole chemical side of it, and, you know, just enjoy the layering and glazing and all that kind of stuff. I like that detail.
That's this whole shelf right up here.
That's Joel's world.
Alchemy. That's the alchemy is here. So
yeah.
So,
Joel was trying to explain to me that because like I want to try to paint, like I do pencil drawings, but like just the whole thought of like learning that skill set, man, like that, it's just wild. Joel makes it sound like it's so easy.
Years.
But, yeah.
It does. I mean, it really, honestly, it takes a lifetime to get it down, and even then, you don't really get it down.
Yeah, and you always become hypocritical too, because I have all of this stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, you got to use all this shit, and then like now I'm in a thing where I'm like, nah, man, just use thinner only. But will I go back to some of this stuff? Like probably. You know, it's just, I don't know. You find what tool in your toolbox or what weapon is going to kill this thing. Just kind of pull it.
It's like I've got all my brushes are small now, but I just keep like a thing of oddball brushes that I use, but these are the only ones I use.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I got like 300 and I use like 2 ever.
Right.
On the painting too. I don't do that bigger brush to smaller brush thing, so I don't do that at all. So.
A lot of times I end up with a brush in my hand, and I do most of everything with it, not realizing that I haven't switched them up or anything like that, and I really should have. And I'm sitting there painting big space with a little tiny brush and have to kind of shake myself out of it.
I'll do the challenge too, where it's like I don't even want to use a brush. I might just say, okay, I'm going to use an ink roller to do this whole entire painting. It's all done with ink roller. Yeah, just to pull that off, or it's all done with a squeegee. That's a very common weapon that I use in there. And cool. pull like go grab a stick out of the woods and paint with that and see if you can pull it off. You know? Especially if you're getting too stupid with yourself and too nuanced and detailed. It's like, no, dummy, like go paint with a fork from the kitchen drawer and see how that comes out.
Yeah.
Right.
Where did you all get your background in drawing and painting.
Oh God. Do you want to go, John? I'll let John go first.
Well, mine's much more boring, so yeah.
So I gotta go grab my my charger real quick. I just realized that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll be right.
Well, I'm pretty boring with it, so it might not last till he gets back. But no, because Joel and I work together in our day job. That's how we met, and that's how we formed Livid during the pandemic. You know, he was doing he had art shows in Boston, and with his fine arts. Obviously, things died off, and we used to sit next to each other in the office, and we got to talking because I started doing pencil drawings again. I got the itch to start drawing again. I didn't do anything in school for it. I just in high school, like I was pretty good with it. And my art teacher was like, you should go to art school, and didn't do it, and then I just stopped drawing for years. And then my son wanted me to draw something for him. I got back into it, and then I started putting more detail into it, like shading and stuff that I never paid attention to when I was a kid. And I was pretty happy with myself, but Joel and I became friends because of that. I used to like text him tips like, hey, this eyeball's off a centimeter, or no, I'm like, what's wrong with this drawing? Something looks off. And he's like, oh, you got to move the eyeball up or down a centimeter, just like something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then he knew I wanted to write though. So that he reached out during the pandemic and was like, hey, I kind of want to try my hand at doing some sequential art for comics. He's like, you got any ideas? And I was like, yeah, I actually started writing something as a novel that would be way better as a comic. So that's where it all started, and so I have my own Etsy shop for my pencil drawings, but like I haven't drawn in almost a year because we've been so busy with this stuff, writing. But yeah, so I mean, my passion was, even though I loved drawing, my passion was always to write. So I might as well take this second to plug it. So I actually just wrote my first novel that I got the proof versions of. I can't enlarge my screen, but yeah. So did I do that, or did you do that?
Yeah, you did. No, you did that.
No, I'm back.
Oh, you're back.
Oh.
So yeah, I wrote this book, and it's I'm pretty proud of it. It's getting good reviews so far. It's not for sale yet. It's just
that's
the
impressive
readers, but yeah. So that wasn't really the answer to your question, but that's because my art kind of tailed off when we started writing. So
yeah,
Joel has a much better background.
Oh, I don't know if
art form in itself.
True.
Yeah, wordsmithing is its own deal for sure. Yeah, I was just always one of these guys that could always, I just drew before I could talk and always did it, right? And just talked about this on a few interviews I've had with other people. Is art is always proverbial, right? We could communicate through that before we know how to speak as a child and things like that. And some people keep it once they learn how to talk and verbally communicate, or some people, lose it, right? And I just always kept doing it. So I think for me, as a young guy, it was always just, I found things really boring and under challenging, right? So I would just sit there and draw to keep my mind, I have a pen in my hand now because I just got to keep myself engaged while I'm doing something else. And I would sit there and, draw in class, and I got like in trouble and detentions because the teacher didn't think you were paying attention and all that shit. It's like, I can actually pay attention to you better by doing this than just sitting here looking at you, talking to you. And that they found out years later now that that's a style of learning. I think, what's it called? Like, it's kinetic. I think, I don't know. I have to look it up. It's at this hour on Friday. That's what you get from me. But so I was doing illustration forever. And then when I was a young guy, man, there was a show on PBS called Commander Mark's Imagination Station on PBS. Right, enough of that, but that was cool. And like I was probably 10 at the time when that came out, and I just follow along with it. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I could really get into it. My brother was a huge comic book fan, and we had this little, like, in my mind's eye, I like to say the bedroom was like 4 foot by 6 foot. I mean, it was the smallest freaking room possible that you could put 2 kids in. So it was like enough for a bunk bed and a stack of comic book long boxes. So I was literally living in comic books for like the first 12 years of my life. So I couldn't help but escape that. So obviously you start drawing what's around you and things, and copying stuff. And my brother wanted to be a comic book writer, so he was doing that too. And so he just said, hey, do you want to do some stuff and draw? And so I did that for a while. And then honestly, man, got it. Well, let me digress for a second. Got into to high school. Obviously tattoos were a thing. So people were like, hey man, I can draw a tattoo, and like, yeah, give me $10, $5, and that, it was money back then. Yeah, you could make a week on $3. Yeah, you're like, sure, I'll do it. And then I went to work at the tattoo parlor. I was I was a drummer in a metal band, so I did that and doing art for the band. And, then life happens. The band breaks up like they all do. And then honestly, I didn't do shit for art for like 8 years, like nothing, right? And it really weighed on me morally and spiritually. Like it was like I didn't like who I was and what I was doing. It's like I got to go do something creative, man. So first thing I really got back to doing was I called my buddy up, and I was setting up my drum set down in the basement. Guy was in my band from like 10 years ago. I'm like, hey man, you want to come over and jam? So a few months later, we got the band back together. So it's kind of cool. Like so it kind of re-sparked that. And then the real catalyst that got me into oil painting was my mother was dying from Alzheimer's disease. So I needed something to occupy my mind so I wouldn't have to deal with that bullshit. So I started to oil paint, and then really fell in love with oil painting. The challenge of it, the technical aspect. Spent about a decade doing that. And then we had a couple shows in Boston 2 years ago. And normally you'd have a gallery opening down there and you'd have about 500 or 800 people. But because of COVID, it was like 7 people. Right. Well, shit, what do I do now? So I said, well, I can go back to my illustration background. And John, like he was saying, we had been talking. I said, man, I wouldn't mind doing, drawing a book, but I don't want to write a book. So I said to John, I said, that book you're working on, like, I think, would that be cool to flip into a comic book? So that became Yule, and here we are. So that's the long, short story. So sorry to bore you.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. I can relate to the high school stories of getting in trouble for drawing and getting pictures taken away and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's probably like an entire sketchbook worth of papers that got thrown away during between elementary and high school.
Yeah. The teachers took those, or was it parents, or both, or
just the teachers would take them up from me.
Yeah.
Did you get like in my high school? So when you get to like 9th grade, or when you could start doing like electives, right? Like you didn't have to take art every semester or every year. Like I was signing up for it every single time, and I remember my guidance counselor being like, you should probably change it up a bit and do something. I'm like, no, I want art. Like I want to take art classes. That's
I was the same way.
Yeah.
My art teacher was not cool. Like I didn't like her. So, which is really funny story, because like 15 years later, I actually became friends with her husband and had no idea that they were married.
Oh, wow.
It's like, oh yeah, my wife taught art over there. I was like, oh, who is that? And like, it's like, oh yeah, I remember her. Yeah.
We all had a crush on my art teacher. She, my 11th and 12th grade art teacher. She was fresh she was like 4 years older than us. So, so yeah, we were all just like stupid high school kids drooling over her. But
right.
I was probably a total asshole back then. I don't know. I was in a punk band, metal band. I knew everything. Wanted to politically change the world, like one of those people. So,
right.
I'm sure I was just a total pain in her ass. So it's probably all my fault in hindsight. As you get older. Yeah.
I remember going into the. I got out of a lot of classes. Like I remember I was failing chemistry. And I just went up to the teacher before class one day and I was like, look, I'm failing your class. Can I just go to the art room? He was like, yep, go ahead. He's like, just show up once a week and take the quiz. And I'm like, but I don't know anything. He's like, that's all right. Just take it. And I ended up doing that. And I said the same thing to I think we had to take gym like every year.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, I'm not a sports guy. I'm not going to do anything with gym. I don't mean any disrespect, but I got some projects I need to work on. And can I go do that? And I just go to one of the art teacher's room, like every third period, and show up and work on stuff or work on my portfolio when I was in 11th grade. That's awesome. It was a fun high school.
Yeah. I had a fifth grade English teacher, and I still remember Mrs. Hamilton, and she would say, "Mr. Van Patten, not everything needs to be an art project." And I still remember, I still disagree, Mrs. Hamilton. So you can
Yeah.
you can suck it. I still remember. Yeah. What is that? God, 30 years, 40 years ago. I don't know, but yeah, I still disagree with her. Because I would sit there, I do like my name would be like an illuminated manuscript of like, monk writing on like just a stupid paper,
Uh-huh.
But I was
Yeah.
just bored. I was bored to death in a class. I sat there and self-entertained. That's what I was doing. So
Right.
what are you gonna do? Crazy
That's
stuff,
hilarious.
school stuff. Yeah, yeah.
I remember having one teacher that I was working on a project and just kind of winging it, and she was like, you need to have a plan. You need to like sketch this out and whatever. And I still didn't do it for this project. And she had told me the whole time, she was like, if you start with nothing, you end with nothing. And I still continued to work on this project, just winging it all the way through. And it ended up going into some exhibit and winning awards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I used to always joke with her after that I was like, well, I can start with nothing now.
Yeah.
And I still do to this day.
I hated in photography, they made you like record the f-stop, the aperture, like all this other, the light meter, all this other bullshit. And I was just like, it's a cool photo, man. It works. Like, I'm not going to like
Right.
document this thing. Right. And now you think about, God, 20 years later, how irrelevant like all that was because analog photography is in the trash. Nobody cares.
Oh,
about
right.
it, right.
We
Yeah.
didn't even have photography classes. That wasn't even a thing in my school. It sounds cool.
Wow.
No,
but-
it sucked.
No.
It was
It
real dumb. It sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. I like sitting in the dark room and developing
like
pictures and
I like the dark room. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it was the chemicals. I don't know. But no,
Yeah.
we
the chemicals.
were doing more of the I did that more in graphic design. So I took a 2-year with that just as a vocational thing with like developing the emulsions for like the plates for like AB Dick offices and stuff and running those. So that was kind of cool. So you would take they had this cameraman, it was like the size of the wall. It was like on a railroad track. And the thing would like roll
Yep.
forward and back, and that was your enlarger, or how to shrink and enlarge thing. And then you would be in the dark room and take that photo on that plate of the analog image, and then you go and develop it. So we did a lot of that primarily in the dark room, not too much photography. It was mainly doing plates in production like that. So that was cool. I like that part. I didn't like the photography.
Yeah.
I didn't care about f-stops and apertures and light meters and shit like that. Just didn't care. So, but now I'm older.
I remember. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's okay. I was just saying, now that I'm older, it's like, yeah, it's probably some good stuff to know. Like, I probably really
Right.
did myself a disservice. Again, just being an asshole and 17 and thinking you know everything. It's just stupid.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I did the same stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
I've had a lot of different jobs that I look back on now, and there's so much stuff I learned. And I worked for a trade show exhibit company when I was like 22 or something. And it was, we did these big, like 8-foot by 12 to 15-foot wide photos, and we would have to panel them. And this was before digital printing or anything like that. So we had a big camera on the railroad tracks that we had, big 4x5 negatives, I think, and do everything with that. And we'd do these huge things, and it would come out and roll through all the chemicals and come out, and we'd have to feed it out, and we'd panel them all together. And there's still so much like preparation type stuff that I think about now that go back to that job. And even like I've got a pretty solid background of architecture and drafting and project management and construction and stuff like that, that even to this day, I'm still using a lot of that stuff and just laying out drawings. And it's like all these different things that I've done seem to kind of, now that I'm older, I can appreciate all the different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Ironically, in this house actually came with a dark room built into this house.
No kidding.
Yeah. It was kind of a weird layout. This is an old house, so they're always weird layout. New England homes being in Boston, they're just always kooky. But there was like a bedroom that they threw a wall in the middle of, and like one side was like a laundry area, And then the other side, it was just like this closet with a sink in it. It was like, okay. But there was like a cutout in the ceiling, like a square that was nicely framed out and trimmed. And I didn't buy it from the original owner. I bought it from somebody that was kind of flipping it. But I found out who the original owner was, and I emailed her. I said, what was up with this wooden squared hole in the ceiling? She goes, well, that's
where they kept the game.
The enlarger. Yeah, that's where the gift comes from. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I actually own a cemetery on this property too, and my buddy says that there's corpses buried in the ceiling. When I pull it down, they're all going to come down. So, yeah, but it was the ended up being what she said. She had to fit the enlarger in because it was a dark room. I was like, oh no shit, like that makes total sense now because the way the counter's set out and then like the sink and everything in there. So I have a full dark room here if I ever want to get into it. Right, so it's kind of weird. So yeah.
That's
but
nice.
now I kind of do appreciate the analog photography, where I actually kind of want to get into like making my own cameras and stuff, like out of cigar boxes. And
Right.
remember we used to do the pinhole cameras, like the Quaker Oats, like that whole thing.
Project up on the wall.
Yeah, because you just can't get that look and that feel out of modern digital stuff, even with filters and things. It's just there's so many nuances and errors and things that can happen just through the course of working with the actual mechanism of the photography plus its development. You're just never going to get that with a digital camera, and it takes away a little bit of soul to it too. So I'm kind of getting back into that. So it's on my docket to think about maybe doing analog photography. So went from painting to light.
No, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun doing that stuff. And the one thing that I miss is being able to take a camera and have the bulb setting and holding the aperture open and taking night shots. Like you just can't do that kind of stuff, like the trick photography and stuff. Yeah.
One of the super annoying things with digital photography too, it really brightens up everything, right?
Yeah.
And you see that a lot now with people painting from a reference photo, right? It's usually going to be a digital reference photo, and it's really
super saturated.
It's too bright. Like if you look at raw reality and paint from real life, it's very dark. And you'll see that with a lot of the old masters paintings too.
Right.
Like if you go look at, they're really, really dark, and it's not because it's old shitty paint. It's just because that's how the world really is it's really dark. And if you hung up a some of these paintings like up in your house, it probably looked almost black because they're so dark with some of these old 19th century paintings and things. And that's not grime, just that's the pigments, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there was one I was looking at recently because I heard a thing on NPR about I forget what gallery in I think it was London, but the one over in California, Huntington Beach, I think it was, some gallery over there.
That's a big one.
What's that?
There's the Getty Museum. I don't know if that's out in California. That's a big one.
I think it was a little smaller than that, if I'm not sure. But anyway, they swapped paintings, and the California one had the Boy in Blue or whatever that famous painting is, and it finally went back home. And they sent over one that was I forget who the guy's name is, but it's like this really cool, surreal looking painting with these guys from like the 1800s doing experiments on a bird with air and sucking the air out and everything. But the whole thing is just done by like a little bit of candlelight, and everything is just dark as can be, but like just all the shadows and everything, the faces are all dark, but there's so much detail in it, and it looks realistic.
Yeah, when you take, let's say, like I'm out in the woods here in New Hampshire, so you take a photo of the wood line, and the photo comes back black when you look at a lot of like the tree trunks and things. But if you're standing there in reality and you look at the tree, you just see more tree, right? You can keep going in. Of course, you're not going to get that from photo. So you're seeing a lot of that modern painters working from reference photo, and it's overly bright. So I tell people to tone it down, bring down the brightness a lot, because the world is darker than we're so used to seeing everything lit up. Like, this monitor is a light. There's a light behind it, right? That's what's making this illuminate. So that really does affect your vision over time, especially when you're color mixing and things like that. It's not true to nature. So all the story is, if you want to make it look authentic, paint from reality. It's Yeah, I'm losing John over there. He's falling asleep on painting talk.
I'm not falling asleep.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. John's like, what the hell are you guys talking about? So yeah,
I got my pencil. You know, I use different thicknesses of the lead. That's all I got. So
it's value, right? It's values,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
All that, yeah, right? And Bryan showed us that's a big part of his composition too, right?
right.
Coming up with some of your designs and things. That's part of it for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I
And
still use the my old drafting pencils, lead
yeah,
holders.
Yeah.
that's what I got. Same thing. Yeah, right. I love them.
I love having a nice sharp point.
Point 0.03, right?
My wife actually makes fun of me because I'm always sitting there sharpening them.
Yeah. Yeah, I use the mechanicals. I went to the mechanical pencil. That's the move, right? So
Yep.
Oh, I bought one of those really nice artist like mechanical pencil sets. Like they come in a nice fancy case. Like
Uh-huh.
when I went to those, I'm like, holy shit! Like I've been missing out my whole life. And then I bought
Yeah.
like a shading kit, so I have like actually. I don't know where it went. There was one that fell on the floor. I thought I saw it still, but it's gone.
you always have everything within arm's reach.
No, I swear, like it fell off my desk and I didn't pick it up. And oh yeah, there it is.
This is the ongoing thing. Right? Every show we've got whatever we're talking.
I always have exactly what I need. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got these blending
Oh, yeah,
stumps, you know.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
I never like used to really. If I ever used to blend, it was just like darkening, you know, the edges basically. It wasn't anything fancy. And when I started blending a couple years ago, when I started drawing again, I was using tissues and like just like doing that with my finger, you know. And then
Yeah.
I found these, and I'm like, what? Like, man, like I've been missing out my whole life, and you know, it's just I feel like I'm like doing art again. Like after I draw with the pencil, then I do go through it and shade it, and I feel like I'm doing like a whole nother piece of art, because it's just like
Yeah.
looking at the reference photo and like do you push down hard or do you go quick? Like what do you know? So it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good thing to do, to use. I know for me, see if I can find it here. The sharpeners for the mechanical pencils
Oh wow.
that you put your pencil in.
Yeah.
And it spins around. There's like a sandpaper disc inside, but when you open these up, it's filled with the graphite. And the day that I realized that I could dip a tissue in there or a blending stump and pull graphite out or dump this out onto a drawing and just shade big areas, it was like mind blown over the most simple thing.
You just makes you want to just do it all the more, right? You're like, man, now I just want to like practice this.
Yeah.
Remember, John, but I got really into doing different experiments with graphite and charcoal for a period there. Like, and I still have the paper over here. It's like 100-foot roll by 6 foot. The thing is mammoth. And you could take like watercolor ground is what they call it. And you can actually treat that paper. So when you go to work on it with your graphite, you can put some water in it and it won't absorb into the fiber of the paper.
Ah.
So you can do a lot of different cool washes and different effects with charcoal and graphite. It's super cool. Yeah, you can do some different things with that. So I was really messing around with putting different mediums into my graphite. You know, what is it going to do when I put some, walnut oil into the graphite and throw that around? Like, what's it going to do with water and throw that around? You know? So it's kind of cool. So it's like you're painting with the graphite or the charcoal too. So it's pretty slick.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Slick.
Yeah. I think I put wax in there too at one point just to see what wax would do. So it's kind of some textural type of thing. So pretty gnarly stuff. But
yeah,
the big piece of paper, man, I see the roll over there. It's like, got to get back on that. But then there's like all the different types of paper too. There was like the hot press, cold press for different, the textures of it, things like that. So that was a big factor also working on paper.
I was a big paper snob when I was in college. I just always tried different types of stuff. Even like I started doing pastels on sandpaper just to get different grits and tooth to it. And I'd cover like pieces of masonite with sheets of sandpaper and try and do drawings on that, or just pieces on that, and painting on like anything that I could get my hands on, wood panels, of course, and things like that. But it was a lot of fun playing around with that kind of stuff.
if you ever get back to oil painting, one of the things I eventually picked up that I liked was painting on aluminum panel.
Yeah.
Was really cool. I got the material that they make like street signs out of. That
Mhm.
same thing. It's a composite. It's basically like aluminum with a plastic, like a polymer with another piece of aluminum sandwiched together, and you can get them cut to any size, which is pretty slick. And you could,
Oh, cool.
yeah, like, or you could run them through a saw. Like if you have a fine tooth metal saw, like, oh shit, I think it better framed out like this. You could run it through
Hmm.
and cut it out. So, and of course, there's no tooth on that, so you can get really fine detail with paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is I like that.
That cityscape one you did was freaking awesome. Yeah, that was on aluminum, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
aluminum. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with the aluminum panel. It was real slick. Yeah. We talk about John with the values and the the tones, working with that. One of the things I always see for a lot of younger artists is they sometimes will pigeonhole themselves in too tight of a value range, right? Where they
Mhm.
say, I use this as a good lesson, like 0 is pitch black, like 100 is beaming white. People tend to live in this world somewhere in the
Yeah.
middle, like 40 to 70 range, right? I tell them like, no, go darker and go lighter, and you'll make a more dramatic piece of art because you have such a different range. But they tend to stay in that middle too much when you
In
look at it.
the HB range of a pencil, because that's what they use for school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or even when they're oil painting, I had
Yeah, that's true.
good professor. He said, always go make your things a little bit more intentionally dark, and that goes back to just the visual of the world. But
Yep.
you can really build out more of a dramatic composition and painting when you're working with that range of dark to light. If you're somewhere like say 10 to 90, it's going to make a much more dynamic painting than if
Oh
you're
yeah. Yeah.
40 range. You see that where it's really washed out, kind of pastel-y with like a lot of amateur art. Kind of looks like that. It's kind of ghostly and chalked out. Too much whites in there and things like that can
Right.
kill.
I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that I like about kind of the subject matter that I do, even though on the money I can't get as like dark and contrasty as I'd like to with backgrounds and stuff, because you want to have the money come through. But I find myself on just even in those paintings, like little areas where I'm putting in darks that I'm just like, this color doesn't even belong here, but it's going to make it pop. And, it's just gives it that depth. And I know it's probably wrong,
Yeah.
but it works.
Right. It looks cool, right? This looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel? Is there any type of like, I can almost feel like maybe there's a little bit of a political undertone because you're working on a U.S. currency. Do politics play any role for you in the art, or is it just kind of something maybe I'm just seeing or picking up? And I'm not knocking. I just feel like it may be something in there. Like I didn't know if that when your thought process of that or anything was.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where everybody wants to know what your thinking is behind it. What kind of statement are you trying to make? And, probably good artists have really good answers to that stuff. But for me, it's something so valuable to people, and to be able to kind of paint on it and make it its own value is kind of fun to me. But there's no politics or anything like that. Like, I'm the most unpolitical person. I mean, I've got my views, but I don't know if you've ever noticed, I don't share them on Instagram. I don't, even through all the presidency stuff, I never say anything or do anything mostly because I've got customers on each side.
Right.
I'm not going to go piss anybody off, but I'm, equal opportunity offender, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, it could almost be, you could leverage that almost like, okay, it's a commentary either for capitalism, against capitalism, something like that. It's kind of where my mind was thinking, working with currency.
I'm sure I could come up with something really good, but there's really nothing behind it other than I enjoy the medium. I love how the paint sticks to the paper. You can't mess it up. I mean, I've gotten in there before and had razor blades, like X-Acto knives, and I've had to scrape paint off, and the paper just still stays, and I can just go right back over it. When I first started out, I went through every chemical I could think of trying to get the ink off, to like be able to take a paintbrush and like actually paint out portions of the face so that I could get my drawing in there better, or the painting in there. And I've tried everything under the sun, and that stuff is strong. It's just there. And I like how it comes through the paint. If you look real close, you can see like the raised printing that they've got on there kind of popping through. So it's just kind of a light for the money, I think.
So there's no actually like removing like Washington's lower jaw when you do that. It's still there. You got over it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I was wondering if that like went in there hard with it. Like remember we were kids, we'd like take the textbooks and we erase like the guy in the map, fix his face and put like a Google face.
No, trust me, I've tried.
Yeah. I was wondering next. It's like I don't know if he goes over that or just pounds that thing with an eraser and gets that thing off there and then works on top of it. So yeah.
No, I gave up on that and just learned to kind of work with it. And there's like that's why I like doing the stuff on the big bills or big faces on the bills, because you got lots of room to put detail, and there's more room than like a $1 bill that the face is real small, or a $2 bill. Like I just don't do those. People ask for them because they want a $2 bill, but I'm like, man, I can't really give you a good piece of artwork on that because there's going to be like 3 spots of ink that I can work in, and that's about it, because it's just so small and detailed already.
Yeah.
Did they do something crazy like $1 million bill? I think was out there at one point in time, or something.
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that's like Photoshop.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they might have been like way back in the day for like very specific purposes, like limited run. It was like.
Are you talking about real currency?
Yeah,
like
I think it was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was like $1 million bill back in the day or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
It was just really, I think it was like more of wasn't out in the public. It was like institution to institution or something like that, moving things around. Like back when there was actually physical gold at the bank, and it was like the promissory note and things like that. Right. There's actually there's a museum in New York City, is like the New Mistis Museum. I don't know if you've ever gone up there, but it's like all just like currency. It's like a museum of currency.
Really?
No,
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, I think it's there. Maybe John knows or can look it up. I don't know.
I've never heard of it.
I could be wrong, but I'm like 80% certain there's a museum.
I'm just gonna type in currency museum. I can't imagine there's too many of those.
New York City. I like to say it's up there.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to see.
I know there's a museum of finance, so it might be.
Oh, that's what just popped up. Museum of American Finance.
But there too, I think they do have a currency section where they show historically like all the different types of currencies. So, yeah. Now the world's go take a look. Yeah, I'd love to go to that too. I'd bore the hell out of my wife, so I'd have to go by myself. So.
Yeah,
not that trip at all. Yeah,
I'll meet you back at the bar later.
Yeah, we can go up there and check that out. Because I'm one of these people that can get interested in absolutely anything, and it drives my wife crazy. So I would not be bored.
So I'm going to a horror author convention in 2 weekends in Virginia, and my wife wanted to come. I'm like, you're going to be bored out of your freaking mind. Like, I'm going to be doing like workshops and stuff with these guys. Like, you're going to be like, she was like, I'll stay at the pool. I don't care. I just want to get like away for a couple of days, But,
right.
Yeah, but
is she going to go with you or no?
No, I'm driving too, because flights are ridiculous right now. They're like $650 to fly down to Virginia. So
might spend that gas though, right? I don't know at this point, man. Like,
yeah, really.
I'm gonna find out. I'm driving. I'm not. I've heard horror stories of flying lately too, like layovers that weren't expected, like 12 hours instead of 4, and flights being canceled last second. Like, I'm like, man, I don't want to drive 10 hours, but I don't want to deal with that stuff either. So I don't know. Driving to Virginia is easy from New Hampshire anyways. It's not that bad. Pretty straightforward once you get past the New York part of it. But
once you get past DC.
yeah.
DC is terrible.
Oh god.
Grew up driving that beltway every single day.
I feel like I can avoid DC. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at. I don't remember, because we used to drive to Florida every year growing up from New Hampshire, and I don't remember really going through DC. I feel like we somehow got around it. I don't know. And that was before freaking GPS. Like, my dad had his stupid Atlas out, driving down the road. But anyways, I can't find National Museum of American History. That's not what we want. Jeez.
No, it's a currency. It was like a museum of finance. I could look it up.
I thought you were saying it was a different museum from that. I have the Museum
No,
of
I could
American
be wrong.
Finance.
It could be one of the same, but I've seen pictures of it, so I don't know if there's photos on there, John, too, that they show inside of there.
Here, I'm
But,
gonna share. I'm not gonna print. Man, what am I doing right now? All right, sorry.
This is what I
Yeah,
do.
I can't work a computer on command.
Well, this is on TripAdvisor, so who knows what we're gonna get.
All right. Yeah.
Museum of American Finance. Let's see what we got. Huh.
I think we're getting warmer.
Whoa,
there it is.
Yeah, there we go.
Let me go
Wow.
full screen.
That's cool.
Can you blow that up?
Yeah. Whoa, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think this would be right in your wheelhouse, Brian. This would blow your mind.
Yeah. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Just
That's what I was thinking of. That image there was exactly what I was thinking of. So I'm glad we were able to find that, so people know I'm not talking shit. I say things,
that's cool.
John thinks I make so many things up. He's like, dude, there's no museum of finance. Like, it's just like, no, man, like there really is. Like, I don't know. I know all these dumb facts. Like, nothing that could be in real life, Brian, but it's just all this.
I don't. It's not that I think you make it up. It's like, so like when I was writing the comic script, I'm like, man, I got this plot hole. I need to get from point A to point B. And he's like, oh, what about blah, 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 and like just has something instantly that is like so freaking out in left field, and it's like perfect. But I'm like, did you make that up or is that real? Like, what?
Like, no, it's really. You never heard about Perry Reese and the mapping of Antarctica in 1534? You never heard of that, John? Like,
yeah. Anyways,
this would be awesome, man. Like, just think you could go through there and be like, I got to find myself an 1874 $5 bill because that looks rad as hell. So
is this just like one room there, you think, Joel, or is this like
I don't know, man. But like, isn't this museum's pretty lit? Like, why wouldn't I want to go there? But my wife would not like that at all. She would be punching me in the face if I took her to that.
Yeah, I've got bags of like flat bags of currency from all over the world, and sometimes I'll pull it out and just look at it and flip through it and stuff, and it bores the hell out of everybody else. I'm like, look at this is so cool. And you're like, all right, flip staring at the TV.
I was more of a coin guy because my dad was a coin guy, so we grew up doing coins together, and I always thought they were so rad as a kid and stuff, and playing around with those things. So yeah, I didn't get into the paper money too much. It just wasn't out there because it just got beat to hell, right?
Yeah.
I was doing a lot. Remember when I was selling you some things, I was doing a paper and ephemera. So I've had a few things like Confederate money. I've had that. It's pretty cool. Stuff like that. I think of another thing. I don't know. It's pretty small, but you think about the old stock certificates, and they had some wonderful filigree at the top of that.
Really good stuff on those.
Right. It was like, oh man, maybe Brian could play in that world too. So
I've looked at them, and it's another thing where it's like they've got such great detail. One, I hate to mess it up, and two, it's like, who would buy it?
Yeah. Weirdos in the finance world.
Know. Yeah.
Right.
But people did buy those off me just to frame them and hang them on their wall because it's so nice. Like some of those art, like those old railroad certificates and things. And
yeah, those are really cool.
Yeah, now we're all digital stuff, and it kind of sucks because it was just cool back then to actually have like this big fancy.
Yeah. Some of the people that I follow that sell currency, I've been really wanting to start collecting a few pieces, but like I want to get something that's not necessarily worth something, but something that's really going to mean something if I'm going to spend the money. Like I want something good. Yeah. Something that like I can frame up and, oh, look at this. Just unique pieces.
Yeah, it's a good question. Would you be looking, to do antique currency just as part of your personal collection? Like, what do you collect? Would you collect stuff like that, or is there other stuff that you're into like that?
I've been collecting just some of the foreign currency bills and stuff. And actually it happened before I knew it. And it was just people that were following me, and they were like, oh, I've got some stuff from here, I'll send you. And I had friends that had been to different countries, and they still had some leftover paper money that was just sitting around their house, and they're like, I'm not going to use it, and it's not worth anything. And they'd send it to me, and I've got a. I've always said that I could probably buy a hamburger and a Coke anywhere in the world, but that's about it.
No,
The old currency. I do like the old currency, and I've gotten a lot more into that lately.
I was at an estate sale when I was in that line of work, and I like to say it was like a fifth generation estate, and somebody our age took it over, and they said, "Hell with it, I don't care. I want to sell everything at the house." And they were going through some books, and they opened it up, and there was some type of bill from a local bank. I think it was Exeter, New Hampshire, and it was tiny. It was smaller than a normal, dollar bill. I like to say it was like a $15 bill, believe it or not, but it was a bank note like that, an exchange that you could exchange for gold. And they ran it through the auction, and I was there. It was just in the middle of a book, so somebody stuck it in there in like whatever 1840 and just forgot that it was in the middle of this book. And the auctioneer just happened to smartly be flipping through books. I'm sure in their experience they probably said, yeah, we should flip through books of estates because people put shit in there and forget it's there.
Right.
But the bill brought like $3,800. I mean, it's super rare, right? I mean, think about a bill from a very localized specific bank here. I mean, how many of those are out there in the world? It's probably one of none. They're out there
right
still.
Right.
Yeah. That's
nowadays.
Yeah. We had so much stuff like that back in the day. Every bank had their own notes, and then every you go back far enough. I mean, even the colonies had their own notes for money and stuff. So it's out there. I think this stuff's really cool. I like the history of it.
Yeah, that's what I like about it.
Yeah, it's very neat, right? I mean, you could actually exchange it for gold back in the day. Now you don't get anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've got some old silver certificates, but I've been looking at some gold ones that I wanted to possibly purchase.
Yeah. Super cool. Do you ever get into looking at any of the serial numbers and do anything with that? I know some of the guys, there's like these TikTok videos are like, hey man, if you find this $50 bill for $300, like, I don't know if you get like paying attention to those at all and get into that world at all.
I pay attention to serial numbers because a lot of people do like consecutive like runs, because even when I get a full sheet, none of the numbers match up. It's not like 1 through 32, because when they run their plates, this plate that they run first has like, say, 1, 2, 3, and the next plate that they run under it in that same spot would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it goes down.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's how I understand it. I could be talking out of my butt. I don't know, but that's how I understand it. Yeah. So I do look for consecutive stuff, and like I star notes and things like that. They're not really valuable, but they're fun to find once in a while. I had I got money out of the bank one time. I think I got $100 out, and all of them were in consecutive order star notes.
Yeah.
And somehow I misplaced them.
Yeah.
Something.
What do they say? Whenever the guys are taking the hostage and looking for ransom, they say, unmarked $100 bills, consecutive order,
right.
whatever.
Yeah. That's a tough order.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Awesome. Well, we're nearing up on the hour and a half mark here. Thank you for coming on. I'll let you get the final word here. Tell people a little bit about where they can find your stuff. I've been running some banners down here, what you got going on, and where they can find it.
I mean, you can find a little bit of old stuff on the website, the BryanPinkeyDesigns.com. Most everything current is on Instagram at the Bryan Pinkey. And anything recent that I post, anything that's up for sale, it's usually on there. It tends to go quick. So, I tell people that I kind of do regular stuff for, if they're looking for something just out of the blue, to just kind of keep posted, and it'll be on there.
Nice. Taking on any commissions currently, if somebody were to connect with you and want a custom piece? Yep.
Definitely. Yeah, they can always IM me through Instagram or DM me. That's kind of the best way. That way I can keep it all in one place.
Yeah.
Nice. Yep. Awesome. Well, good, man. Appreciate you spending some time, and honored to to meet you.
Yeah, it's
John,
great to meet you too, both of
bang,
you.
banging the
Yeah.
table back here, like I said, for a long time. And
I know you have. I appreciate it.
yeah, I'm a big fan, always have been, and I still think your art's, second to none and very unique and cool. So keep
Thank
it up.
you.
It's really
Thank you.
good. You're very welcome. We tend to adopt our guests when they come on. So if there's anything you ever come on and promote or talk about, just send us a
Okay.
message. Man, always have you
Definitely.
on. All right,
Yeah,
brother.
this was fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Good time.
Appreciate your time
All right.
today. It's been real great, and I'll definitely look forward to staying connected with you online, man. So appreciate it again.
Definitely.
All right.
Good meeting you too, John.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for going on, man.
Have a good night, buddy.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
You too. Take care.
Good night. Bye bye.